The city of Ibarra buzzed under the golden glow of a late summer evening. Inside the upscale Harmony Bistro, laughter and the clink of glasses filled the air. Patrons savored gourmet dishes, their voices weaving a tapestry of joy and camaraderie. In a quiet corner, however, a man sat alone, his presence almost invisible amidst the lively crowd. Elias Kane, a soft-spoken real estate magnate in his late 40s, stared at the untouched plate of grilled fish and roasted vegetables before him. A glass of sparkling water sat beside it, condensation trickling down its side. Dressed in a tailored gray suit, Elias exuded wealth, but his eyes carried a weight that no amount of money could lift. His thoughts drifted to a time 3 years past, to a life filled with love, his wife, Amara, and their son, Jaden. A tragic accident had stolen them from him, leaving an ache that lingered like a shadow. Elias murmured to himself, his voice barely audible. 3 years, and it still feels like yesterday. His fingers tightened around the glass, his gaze fixed on the empty chair across from him. He could almost see Amara's warm smile, hear Jaden's infectious giggle. I'd give everything to hold you both again, he whispered, his heart heavy with grief. As Elias sat lost in memory, a hesitant voice broke through his reverie. "Excuse me, sir, could I please have your leftovers for my daughter?" He turned to see a young woman standing before him, her worn dress clinging to her thin frame. In her arms, she cradled a small child, no older than 2, whose wide, weary eyes locked onto Elias's plate. The woman's face was etched with exhaustion, but her voice carried a quiet strength, a mother's desperation to provide. The restaurant grew still, conversations paused, and curious glances turned toward the scene. Elias's heart thudded. He studied the woman, her tattered shoes, her trembling hands, the way she held her child as if shielding her from the world. Something stirred within him, a flicker of compassion he hadn't felt in years. Without a word, Elias slid his plate toward her. "Take it," he said softly. "Yours." The woman's eyes widened, and she whispered, "Thank you so much." Her hands shook as she carefully scooped the food into a small cloth bag, treating it like a precious gift. She tied the bag tightly, glanced at Elias with gratitude, and turned toward the exit, her daughter nestled against her chest. Elias watched her go, his mind racing. Who was she? What circumstances had brought her to beg for scraps? The questions gnawed at him, urging him to act. Without fully understanding why, he stood, left a generous tip on the table, and followed her at a distance. The woman moved swiftly through Ibarra's bustling streets, her figure weaving through the crowd until she veered into a dimly lit alley. Elias kept his distance, careful not to alarm her. The city's vibrancy faded as they entered a neglected corner of Ibarra, where crumbling buildings and abandoned vehicles told stories of forgotten dreams. Elias's breath caught when he saw her destination, an old, rusted delivery van parked beside a dilapidated warehouse. Its windows were cracked, its seats long gone. Yet, as the woman climbed inside, he realized this was her home, a makeshift shelter for her and her child. "Is this where they live?" Elias whispered, his voice barely audible. His chest tightened at the thought of a mother and child enduring such hardship. He stayed hidden in the shadows, torn between stepping forward and respecting their privacy. He didn't want to frighten her or make her feel judged, but one thing was clear. He couldn't walk away. Over the next week, Elias became a silent guardian. Each morning, he arranged for a small package to be left near the van. He canned goods, baby formula, diapers, and blankets. He entrusted the task to a trusted employee, ensuring anonymity. Each time the woman, whom he later learned was named Mara, found the packages, her eyes would glisten with tears of gratitude. She never knew who left them, but they were a lifeline in her darkest days. One morning, Elias included a note with the package, a phone number and a simple message, "Call if you need help." He hoped it would be a bridge, a way to offer more without overwhelming her. Mara, clutching the note, felt a spark of hope. That afternoon, she approached a street vendor, her daughter, Lila, in her arms. "Please, can I borrow your phone for a moment?" she asked, her voice trembling with urgency. The vendor, a kind-eyed woman, nodded and handed over "Your phone." For a moment, she asked, her voice trembling with urgency. The vendor, a kind-eyed woman, nodded and handed over her phone. Mara dialed the number, but it rang unanswered. She tried again, her heart sinking with each unanswered ring. "Thank you," she murmured, returning the phone and walking back to the van, wondering who her mysterious benefactor could be. Meanwhile, Elias sat in his sleek office at Kane Properties, the city skyline stretching beyond his floor to ceiling windows. Papers littered his desk, but his mind was elsewhere. "A week," he muttered. "A week since I saw her in that van, with no heat, no safety." The image of Mara and Lila haunted him, stirring memories of his own family. What if that were Amara and Jaden, he thought, his jaw tightening. I'd want someone to help them. Determination took hold. Elias pressed the intercom on his desk. "Get me Messa Carter," he said firmly. Moments later, Rachel Carter, head of his interior design team, entered his office. "Rachel," Elias began, "I need an apartment prepared, fully furnished, ready for a single mother and her child. Everything they'd need. Furniture, kitchen supplies, baby essentials. Can you make it happen?" Rachel nodded, her curiosity piqued. "Of course, Mr. Kane. May I ask who it's for?" "Someone who needs it," Elias replied, his tone gentle but resolute. "She doesn't know I'm doing this. She's been living in an abandoned van with her daughter. I want them to have a safe place to call home." Rachel's eyes softened. "I'll get it done, sir. And if she refuses?" "Then at least I tried," Elias said, his voice steady. "But let's make it welcoming enough that she won't." That night, a storm swept through Ibarra, rain hammering the city. Inside the van, Mara rocked Allah, who was burning with fever. Manic gripped her as Leela's cries grew weaker, wrapping her daughter in a thin blanket. Mara braved the rain and ran to Stess Mary's hospital, her clothes soaked by the time she reached the reception desk. "Please," she gasped. "My daughter's sick. She needs help." The nurse behind the desk frowned. "Do you have payment or a deposit?" Mara's heart sank. "I don't, but please, save her. I'll find a way to pay." "I'm sorry," the nurse said, her voice tinged with regret. "Hospital policy requires payment." Mara's knees buckled, and she sank to the floor, clutching Leela. Desperate, she noticed a phone on the desk. "Can I use it to send a message? It's an emergency." The nurse hesitated, then nodded. "There's no call credit, but you can send a text." Mara pulled out the damp note, her fingers trembling as she typed. "Asterisk, please help. My daughter is sick. Stet Mary's hospital." Asterisk, she sent it, praying the stranger would see it in time across town. Elias was settling into bed when his phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, his heart racing as he read the message. "It's her," he said, leaping up. Grabbing his keys, he drove through the storm to Stet Mary's at the hospital. Elias spotted Mara on a bench, her face streaked with tears. "Madam," he called softly. She looked up, startled, then recognized him from the restaurant. "You," she whispered, clutching Lila. Elias turned to the nurses. "Get a doctor now. This child needs treatment immediately." The staff sprang into action. A doctor examined Lila, administering fluids and medication. Mara watched, her hands clasped in prayer. When the doctor confirmed Lila would recover, Mara fell to her knees before Elias. "Thank you," she sobbed. "You saved her." Elias gently lifted her to her feet. "No need to kneel. I'm just doing what's right." After ensuring Lila's care was covered, Elias approached Mara again. "What's your name?" he asked. "Mara," she replied, her voice shaky. "And this is Lila. I don't know how to thank you." "I'm Elias," he said with a small smile. "You don't need to thank me. Just take care of your girl. I'll check on you tomorrow." The next morning, Elias arrived at the hospital with a warm breakfast for Mara and Lila. He found Mara by Lila's bedside, her eyes heavy from a sleepless night. Lila, now stable, slept peacefully. "Good morning," Elias said, handing Mara's food. "You need to stay strong for her." Mara took the bag, her gratitude overwhelming. "Thank you, Mr. Elias. The doctor says she can go home today." Elias nodded, slipping a small roll of cash onto the bedside table. "For anything you need," he said. Mara's eyes welled up, but she managed a nod. By late afternoon, Lila was discharged. As Mara prepared to return to the van, a nurse approached. "Someone's waiting for you at reception." Puzzled, Mara walked to the lobby, where a man in a neat suit introduced himself as Daniel Elias. "Driver, Mr. Kane asked me to take you somewhere," he said kindly. Mara hesitated, then nodded, trusting the man who had already done so much. They drove to a serene neighborhood, stopping before a modern apartment building. Daniel led her inside, unlocking a door to reveal a fully furnished home, cozy furniture, a stocked kitchen, and a crib for Leela. "This is yours," Daniel said, holding out the key. Mara froze, tears streaming down her face. "Mine," she whispered, unable to comprehend the gift. Overcome, she begged Daniel to take her to Elias at Kane Properties. Mara burst into Elias's office, dropping to her knees. "Thank you," she cried. "You've given us a home, a future." Elias helped her up, his voice gentle. "Wealth means nothing if it can't help others. You and Lila deserve this." Over the following weeks, Mara settled into her new life. Elias offered her a job at his company. Leveraging her degree in accounting, her mother Esther reconciled with Mara and moved to the city to care for Lila. Kestiv. The man who fathered Leela, contacted after years of silence, began sending support, acknowledging his responsibility. One evening, as Mara cooked dinner in her new kitchen, she looked at Leela giggling. With Esther, tears of joy filled her eyes. "Thank you, God," she whispered, "for Elias, for hope, for a second chance."